Hey, Progress fam. So it's been a couple of days. I broke my streak of wanting to record a podcast every single day. And on the last one, I mentioned that I had recorded the podcast before that. But one of the things that I started really getting critical about is I want to be able to crystallize my knowledge for you all better. And I don't want to just jump into these. And so one of the things I'm focusing on in terms of being able to articulate my actual speech better is also helping you all to better understand the concepts better with actual examples. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to be starting to work on now. My goal is to still create a podcast every single day for you all and just keep up that consistency because I just get so much clarity through that action. But one of the things that I also learned through this last week. So we hosted our first ever $1,000,000 Med Spa Challenge on Thursday. And I co-hosted this with a great friend of mine that has built her very own $1,000,000 plus med spa, and she has just done so well. And she worked on the things that we were going through with those ladies on that day from the get-go. And that's one of the things that really I think has set her apart is because she's just been so clear and so committed. And I remember when we first went through what I call the business blueprint years ago, and one of the name that she called her treatments, and I loved it, and she's just been so clear and convicted ever since then. And I think that's what's actually made her business so successful is because she just did the work and had that clarity from the get-go, and she has refined it every step of the way. And because of that clarity, she's at a point where she can afford to expand her business, whereas a lot of people build $1,000,000 businesses but they're not very profitable. They've scaled chaos is all that they've done, and she has not done that. And so I'm really honored to have been able to have that opportunity. And we're actually going to be hosting the next $1,000,000 Med Spa challenge in at the end of March. And so once we get those dates, we'll be sharing those with you all. But going through that was the first time we've hosted an event like that. It was very simple and low key. There's a lot of things that I learned, and especially in planning. And as much as I am a planner and I work to optimize my day and make sure I maintain my discipline, no matter if I'm at home or if I'm traveling in another place, there's definitely things that trip me up sometimes. And when I get in a room of other business owners, it is so hard for me to leave that because I love the conversations that we have. I love the dialogue we had. And it was just so rewarding for me to be able to see these women that came in there with lacking clarity, with overwhelm, and then being able to leave with very clear action plans on exactly how they are going to free up so much of their time and get their business to the next level. And then just confidence in knowing that they don't have to worry about competition anymore because competition was never their problem in the first place. And that's one of those things where I really do believe that. And I'll talk about that so much, especially because I get a lot of people that when we first start working with one another, we go through kind of like the SWOT analysis thing when we're doing some planning. And they'll look at their competition. My competition's doing this. And those are just always opportunities for me to help them reflect on where do you actually feel deficient, where if it wasn't for this thing, you wouldn't be worried about your competition, right? People that are adjacent to you. Because really, we want to create this environment of collaboration. And this is part of the reason we wanted to lean into the $1,000,000 med spas and bringing these women and these practice owners together. They're not always women, but so far the ones that we've worked with have been bringing these people together that are in the wellness space, the med spa space, and helping them to collaborate with one another. Because every time we have gotten them in rooms together, back when we had the Women with Grit retreat about 5 months ago, all of these women had med spas. And so that was really what allowed me to have clarity to lean into these people, because when they got in that room together, somebody was doing something in their business that worked really well for them, and they were able to share that with this other person, and they took it and implemented it in their own business. They loved the ideas they had to share. And what was also very interesting is that no two of them offered the same exact thing. A lot of them do like medical aesthetics and things, but they have their own combination and their own beliefs and their own reasons for the reason that they do things. And so there was no competition in there. And so they were able to collaborate, and it was really that real life example of the sum being greater than the individual parts. And And I love being able to create those environments. And so when I get into those rooms with those people, I love to be able to help them shift their mindset. And they, just I'm flattered with the compliments that they gave for me, but just being able to have crystal clear clarity on exactly the things they need to go back and do. And part of this challenge is that we follow up with them in 30 days, because I want to know, did you actually follow through with what you said you were going to do? Because we can host events and things like that, and a lot of people will have them, and, to each his own, and people are not my responsibility whether they follow through with the things they say they're going to do or not. And I know that we can still create a process that's weaved into this experience where they know that our goal is to help hold them accountable, because we want them to make progress that is going to positively impact their business. And so that's part of the reason that we did this. And so we took a lot from it. I definitely learned a lot of things about discipline and how, I probably need to record my podcast first thing in the morning rather than waiting and planning to do it later in the day, because it didn't happen. I was just so tired and exhausted. I did get my push-ups in, so I got that, but just learning some things about myself. And this is the point. And I'm not beating myself up over missing a couple of days. I wanted to have the track record, and I'm still learning, because again, failures are only failures if we didn't actually take anything from it. And I've learned things about my own discipline and things that I want to change about my own behaviors, because discipline is freedom, right? And so as I'm going through and I'm reflecting on our first $1 million Med Spa challenge, and we're going to be actually creating this curriculum on how to have your million your way and beyond, and scaling the unique method for which you do things, and being clear about what are the beliefs that go into that, all the way to developing the process as it aligns to your business and the way that you want to help people. And so I'm going through and I'm doing some brain dumping, and there was something that I really wanted to share with you all today. When I was going through the section on, one of the things we were trying to do is really help these ladies to be able to identify what their skills and their strengths are, not just the licenses and the college education that we get. That stuff is valuable, but we tend to lean so heavily on those things and not credit ourselves for the skills that we have accumulated through life experience, through other professional experience, through our childhood, and things like that. And so I wanted to share this list with you all of skills that you probably have that you didn't even realize was a skill. And the reason I want to point this out is because I want you to have confidence that you have a bigger arsenal of skills than you probably realize. Because, and even I can find myself doing this sometimes. We look up to people, we see people on social media out in the world, people that are in our industry, and we think that they're doing better than we are, but we don't truly ever actually know. And I've seen so many cases where this just is not true. And then we will beat ourselves up because we don't know as much as they do, or we don't have the experiences that they do. And one of the things that this also brought clarity to me about is just reaffirming that no two businesses are the same. And I want you to be able to have confidence and conviction in the experience that you bring to the table just from your life, and things that you may not seemingly realize are actually very related and influential to how you impact people today. And inventorying those things and using that insight to be able to develop the systems, the principles, the processes for how you get people results, how you help enhance their life, how you help them derive their own purpose and really fulfill and live that out, and how you also accumulate the team that is going to help to deliver on that, right? And so I wanted to go through this with you and help you to understand where you may have leadership skills. You're going to have communication skills that you maybe didn't realize, relationship skills, just the personal experience-based skills that are going to uniquely qualify you. So I want to go through some of these and some examples, and hopefully this helps you to be able to identify some of these and journal about these things, document these down. And like I said, in Progress University, this is going to be the first mastermind that we really go through together, because one of the struggles, probably the biggest struggles, is just that struggle of comparison. And we see how other people are doing things, and rather than being able to take the concept of what made them successful, they're trying to copy and paste, and it's not working. And so I want you to be able to derive confidence from your own abilities. And it's funny because before I even was putting this stuff together, the other day I was thinking to myself, I don't even know what brought this up, but when I was growing up, my parents fought all the time, and I was the mediator for that. And I hated doing that. And I see in so many ways how that has maybe held me back in some cases. But the other day, I flipped the script on that, and it actually helped me to see how I was able to be a better leader because of that experience as a child in being that mediator and trying to diffuse situations and just trying to find that happy medium of like, what do both people need so that we can reconcile this? And not in a way where it's false or it is just surface level, but like genuinely helping people to see that, this conflict or whatever the case may be is not serving you all, and it's not serving anybody else, but it's mainly not serving you all. So just things like that made me realize, because I was going through this exercise myself, that I am very equipped to be a leader. And that's one of the things that I pride myself on. And I'm still working rigorously to develop my leadership skills. And I know that I have great leadership skills. And that is such a core component of being a CEO and owning a company, is that you've got to be able to not only lead people, but help them to see things the way that you need them to see them, so that you can stay in alignment and you can travel this journey together of growing this business. And I was talking with my team yesterday, and we were talking about our goals for this year and what it's going to look like to double in size. And, because I want to be able to double their pay, and I want to be able to pay my team a lot of money and give them financial freedom while we're also helping our clients do the same thing. And so we were brainstorming, what does that look like? And they're so great about understanding and seeing that vision and elevating every person on the team and helping us to orchestrate our resources so that that happens. And there's things that it used to be very hard for me to take credit for things that I did have some kind of effect or responsibility over. And I'm working to get better about that, because I ride the line of humility of, what actually should I take credit for and what should I defer the credit to others for. But that's just something where, leaning into that more and understanding I am a great leader so that I can be a better one. And that actually, because telling myself that I wasn't a great leader, your word reaffirm your words through your actions if you repeat that. And I don't want to be a bad leader. So I'm going to take credit for those things. And I want to share some leadership skills just to start off with that you may not realize that you even have. And so, leadership skills that are going to come from experience and not just formal training are things like navigating tough decisions under pressure and doing the hard things that need to be done when you have an option to not go the hard road. You go the low road, or you have the option to go the low road, but you go the high road, right? And then just building and maintaining that strong company culture, especially in times of hardship and challenges. The economy sometimes can really have an effect on businesses, and being able to maintain that optimism and that culture in times like that, for instance, is a skill that you don't just wake up and you're born with. And if you can do that in the low times, then imagine what you can do in the high times. Another skill that you can add to your inventory is like if you can lead your team through uncertainty or rapid growth, because when things change, you have to have very high levels of communication. And if you can lead people through those parts and cycles of your business, then that's going to be a skill that you're going to add. Handling conflict resolution with confidence and certainty and conviction, and just being clear that this is the way that it needs to be done. And you know what? It makes me think about how even if you're not absolutely certain on the answer, if you look certain when you respond and people trust you, a lot of times it's still going to have a good outcome. And so another skill is going to be like when you can influence and inspire other people naturally, just because you're leading with your passion, which is why I think this is so important, to lead with what you're passionate about, not just with what you can do. That certainly makes an impact on other people. People want to be part of a movement where the person that is leading that movement is in love with that. And the other thing that came to me was delegating effectively that empowers other people rather than telling them what to do with no why. Because not only does it make your life simpler when you can delegate people and they understand the reason behind what they're doing, people want to know that what they do matters. And this is something that's very important to me, because I have come from so many careers that People were just unhappy. They show up, they clock out, they go home, they fry their brain sitting in front of a television, eating, smoking, drinking. And that stuff is not bad, but in the means of that is really the only thing you have to look forward to with your life because you're so unfulfilled with your job. That is not an environment that I ever want to create within my company. And so everybody understands how, when we are going in and we're doing financial data revitalization, when we're going in and we're auditing systems and technology, when we're going in and we're having leadership trainings with clients, helping them to connect the dots of this is what we're doing, but this is why it matters. And that is a skill that I don't even know how I gleaned that other than just seeing people so unhappy. And, there's so many people that I don't want them to live and die and never realize what their purpose was. And so that is because of that passion, it has helped me to develop that leadership skill. And so thinking about those circumstances in your life, like where have you seen somebody that you wish that you could help them have a different life? Like what was your motivation behind that? And you probably are leading with that passion and that desire to help more people not have to live in a way that conflicts with what their purpose is, right? And so the next thing that I have on here is some emotional intelligence skills. So these things are like often, again, this stuff is often overlooked. Like we don't think about it in our day to day because skills and certifications and licenses, things that we can get certified for is oftentimes what we're thinking about. So something else is being able to have empathy and understanding of your team's pain points, of your clients' pain points. Like that is so important. That's actually a really crucial skill for messaging and marketing purposes, sales, because when it comes to sales, we are not here to convince people or force them into a deal. We are here to help them make a decision. Is this the right thing for me? So when you can have this skill of this empathy and truly understanding them and asking them high quality questions, asking them the right questions as it pertains to them and really understanding their pain, that's going to be a skill that's actually going to help people trust you faster. And so that just goes into the next one that I had made a note on here about is like the ability to connect with people on that personal level. And that's really, I think, connected to that empathy, right? Reading the unspoken needs of customers, employees, clients, being able to manage stress and maintaining composure under pressure, and then building trust and rapport effortlessly, just being a really good communicator and connector with people and not having, I think this is where having the selfish desires, people can read into that so easily. And so when you genuinely care about others, then people can sense that, right? And then one of the things that I have thought about also is that discerning when you need to listen to somebody versus when you need to provide guidance, and merely asking that question, if you've ever had somebody come to you and they just needed somebody to talk to, one of the things that has been really helpful, a friend of mine, actually the friend that is hosting Million Dollar Med Spa with me, Carrie, I believe she's the person that articulated this for me, but she said that when she's having a conversation with, I can't remember who it was, she will ask them, do you want me to be able to respond or do you just need somebody to talk to? And I think that being able to clarify that for people is just such a relief. Sometimes they just need to vent and get things off their chest. They just need 8 minutes to be able to share what's on their mind. They're not necessarily looking for feedback. And that's really important because that giving people feedback when they don't necessarily need it or don't necessarily want it, rather, can hurt relationships more than it can help it in a lot of cases. So some other things that I had note on here for solution seeking skills, now very intentionally not problem solving skills. We talked about this at the Million Dollar Med Spa Challenge as well, because I don't want people that focus on problems. I want people that understand what is the end goal that we're actually pursuing, and then where's that problem fitting in here that I know how to think with the end in mind, right? So being able to have these creative solutions to complex challenges. And it made me think about duct tape, for instance, like the person that thought about duct tape or the rubber silicone stuff. I can't remember the name of it. It's like on those infomercials that they sold. You probably know what I'm talking about. Like you could seal a hole up in a boat with this rubber stuff. Just just thinking outside of the box, right? Who would have ever thought of that stuff? Being able to pivot quickly when things don't work out and not letting yourself ruminate in that is something that a lot of people aren't able to do that. So being able to have that authority and that conviction that I don't know that this is absolutely the right decision to make, but this is the one we're going to do because we can't stay here. That is definitely a skill. And then just being able to analyze things from multiple perspectives, being able to actually shift your perspective on things. This is something that was really hard for me for a long time. And then reflecting now, I've been able to see how I've shifted my mindset on so many things that have allowed me to continue to make progress. And then this is a really important communication skill, because if you can learn how to do this, then you're going to be able to communicate this to other people, the value of this as well. Because a lot of times the reason that people, absolutely every time, the reason that people are not making progress is because they're not seeing it. They're not being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so we got to help them shift their perspective, which is absolutely a skill that a lot of people, especially business owners, have, right? You got to be able to do a lot of mindset work to own a business. Being able to recognize patterns and anticipating the future. So this is where those people that really make a lot of money on the stock market, or people that are those early entrants into using like a new social media platform that really ends up taking off, doesn't always happen. But there's a lot of people that, if we look at companies like Apple and look at Tesla, things like that, is like they knew that this was going to be things that they could capitalize on in the future, even though so many people at the time didn't believe in them. And so being able to see these things and just have this strong conviction and belief that this is going to be something big, being able to have that's not something I have for sure, but it makes me think about the pioneers of the buying cycle. And so if you've ever seen that graph, there's usually 4 different phases of buying something. There's like the early adopters. And so these oftentimes are those early adopters people. They're going to be the first ones that buy the Apple iPhone when it comes out, even though there was nothing else like it on them. And then you have the biggest spike in those purchases after a few people have gotten it. They've worked out some of the bugs and the kinks, but we all know that stuff never truly has the bugs and the kinks worked out of it. We keep buying it still. And then the ability to reverse engineer. So thinking with the end in mind. And that's very hard for some people because so many people are living in the day-to-day. They haven't learned the skill of thinking bigger, which I absolutely believe is a skill. And so being able to see this bigger vision, and this is why those visionary people are so valuable in entrepreneurship, because most people are not like that. Most people don't want to think beyond the next day or month or year. And so you being able to be the person that can think with the end in mind actually serves so many people, because you can reverse engineer systems, processes, solutions, and things of that nature. Whereas other people would stay stuck in their lives, no matter what it is, if it wasn't for people like us that have this big picture thinking. Now, the pitfall to that is that if you are able to visualize really big, grandiose things, a lot of times it's hard for you to think small. And there's value in that, and there's struggle that comes with that. So I totally understand that. Storytelling and communication skills. Communication is something that you will never not need to work on. And it's always something that I'm personally working on refining. And I'm not just talking about talking. I mean, effective communication, where it's like, do they understand this? And then do they understand it enough to change their behavior with it? Because when we communicate with people, it's usually because we want something to change. And so you've got to be able to articulate, you got to be able to connect with people. And this is why storytelling is so powerful. And I'm certainly not a master at this, but I actually know a lady that she just teaches people how to sell through storytelling, and she is a whiz at it. And I definitely love watching her content. She's on Instagram, and her handle is actually Ashley.renders. If you want to go check her out, really recommend. I've learned so much just from her content on Instagram alone, like not even buying anything from her. So that is going to allow you to connect with people so well. And that's what holds up so many people's progress, is just in sales, in marketing, in leadership, in operations, being able to connect what you're thinking to the other person and being able to bridge that gap to close it so that it results in a change or what you ultimately want, right? So being able to explain things in these really simple relatable terms. And this is why I actually heard this from Alex Hormozy on his podcast I was listening to yesterday. And I don't know about the most recent election back in 2024, but he was saying that there was a study that was performed, and it was the candidate that had the lowest, I can't remember exactly how I said it, but pretty much the one that spoke the simplest and used the least complex words has won every single time, which makes a lot of sense to me. But it's really sad, kind of almost, because of the reading level and just comprehension level. But this is why they say, like, speak on a 5th grade reading level, right? And then the other thing that came to mind for this is being able to persuade people and not convince them, because the difference is that persuading people is helping them to have clarity on making a decision. Is this for me? Is this not for me? Do I want this? Do I not want this, right? Versus convincing, where it's almost like a force of will on people. And so we want to be able to communicate the difference, because one is going to create a relationship, and I don't mean like, friend to friend relationship, because especially in business, you are a leader first. The last thing you are for them is a friend. Just like in parenting, you are their parent first, you are their friend last, because you are there to help them thrive. You are there to help them to be the best that they can be. And oftentimes when we're friends with people, we don't really leverage that friendship properly. And so we're not giving people the feedback they need to actually be a better person. And so this is why I think it's so important to be able to speak to people in a way that helps them to be able to make decisions rather than making this decision for them. And that skill in and of itself is going to help you so much when it comes to selling. It certainly has helped me, for real. And so the next thing is like being able to turn personal experiences into valuable business lessons, which kind of really goes into the storytelling type of thing. And so just thinking back to experiences that you've had, because when you're really creative, especially, you can bring any experience into a business scenario. And so being able to do that, being able to teach people and when to mentor them effectively, that, like I said, overall, our goal is for behavior change. And so just thinking about that in the way that you communicate, what is my goal that I have here? Is it self-serving, or is it truly because I want these people to be a better person? I want to be able to help them achieve their goals. And so understanding that about yourself and being able to get into the root of that's going to be really helpful. And then just things about, being able to, especially in entrepreneurship, you already have a lot of these. So you just being able to bounce back from failures, and becoming a better person and learning from those things. And so actually winning. And then the same thing with success is that when we look at success, evaluating that just as much as we evaluate failures, because one of the things that you need to understand about both success and failures is that those two circumstances do not happen because of things that you did right this minute. They're a result of things that you did in the past, and they're just now coming to fruition where you can see the payoff or the payment of. And just with that same thinking is going into understanding that the actions and the things that you're doing today, or the lack thereof, are going to create your results in a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now. And this is why, kind of as a caveat, thinking about sales and marketing, this is a conversation that nobody has to explain to me. But when I get on calls with clients and they're evaluating whether they should take this leap and invest in this marketing, if it actually makes sense for them, one of the things that people often ask is, how fast am I going to be able to see results? And they think it's going to happen overnight. But it's not. Good marketing and branding does not happen overnight. It is a commitment to the process. And so just as the same as if you want success for a year from now, you got to start working on it today. So is the concept of, if you don't work on it today, then your chances of the success that you want are going to diminish greatly each day that you go without taking action. So that just came to mind in talking through that skill. But, being able to navigate economic downturns, industry shifts, new technologies, losing a team member, that has been a very critical part that you put a lot of weight on. Being able to navigate through those things and still come through successfully, that is going to be something that is so valuable. I've never seen that not be valuable. And if you can successfully navigate that, or you maybe you don't get the outcome that you want, but you know what you should have done. There's so many people out there that could benefit from knowing how to navigate those things and taking the principles out of that and sharing that with people so that they don't have to go through those mistakes, right? Nobody wants to lose their business during an economic downturn, right? And so how can you if you've had an experience like that, how can you take that experience of what you did, the principles, the action steps, and share that with people so that ultimately they can close the gap on the time it takes for them to be where they are to where they want to be, right? And then going into things like relationship building skills and being able to just be authentic with people is probably the best relationship building skill that there is. And the thing about listening to understand rather than to respond is a very strong relationship skill. And this is something where I definitely improved my listening skills after reading Matthew McConaughey's book Green Lights. And this was one of the parts in there that I remember more than anything else is where he was, I believe he was in Africa, and he was listening to these two guys have a discussion, and he kind of got reprimanded. I can't remember exactly what his response was, but he got reprimanded for one of the injections into the conversation that he had. And this is where he learned that he needed to listen to understand instead of to respond with his own point of view. And I just wish that we over here, especially in any situation, I don't know how other countries are, but I think that there's just so much animosity with people because of this simple thing. They're ready to respond with what they think is right or wrong rather than understanding what is the point of reference for why somebody believes or thinks a certain way that they do, because that would change so much of the dynamic and you'd actually probably come to a resolution actually I know that you would, right? Some of these other things is just, the skill of knowing when to take calculated risk and when to hold back. And if this has been you, being able to reflect on that, it's like, how did you know? Like, what was the trigger for you to be able to know that you should take this risk? And sometimes you just don't know, right? And that's why we have these businesses. This is why we encourage people to take risks, because even if it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it, you still learn. You still have the opportunity to learn something. But big risks often have big rewards, and we want to be able to calculate what that looks like. And, there's never not a risk that we're living with every single day. And so, a lot of people are risk averse and they don't want to take chances. And there's a time and a place for that. Totally understand it. But if you are risking going for the thing that you ultimately want to do with your life versus staying where you are because maybe you don't have the money or you don't know the people or whatever the challenge is or something, you're taking the risk that you're going to die and not be happy with the life that you lived. So you're not taking a risk by going after it. You're taking a risk. It's just which one is going to weigh heavier on your soul ultimately. Being able to overcome challenges other people haven't faced and being able to explain how you harmonize your life. And work-life balance is not something that I am interested in. I don't believe in the concept of balancing, because that pretty much what that means is that I need to balance the amount of time that I work with the amount of time that I work out, with the amount of time that I eat, with the amount of time that I sleep. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in harmonizing my life as it fits my goals and desires. And, I work on the weekends a lot of times. A lot of people don't want to do that, but that works for me because I enjoy it. I get to focus. We don't have kiddos at home anymore. My husband's shop is open on the weekends. And so he's in there, and I would rather be sitting here working on my business than otherwise I'd probably be wasting time on something, and I'd be eating and I'd be 500 pounds because I love donuts. And it's funny, I haven't had a donut for so long and I've been wanting one and I still haven't gotten one. So I'm going to have to fix that real soon. And then just being able to use past experiences to guide people with, again, going through authenticity. And this is where coming into your own messaging is that you don't always have to only tell your story. Being able to tell the story of other people and how you helped them to navigate that is a skill. Being able to, it goes back to that communication skill, right? And one of the last kind of notes that I had taken is just visionary, like passion driven skills. And it's like, how do you stay energized? How do you stay focused in challenging times? And this is where, for me, this is why I think that the vision is the most important thing of your business, because you will inevitably face hard times and you will be successful. And you need it in both of those circumstances, because when things get really hard, you're going to need something more than money. You're going to need something more than the things. You're going to need something more than surface level or something too small that's going to keep you committed and driven toward that big goal, right? And it's like, so many people that, hopefully everybody, but not everybody can say this, but most people would do whatever it takes to take care of their kids. If their kids were threatened or anything like that, they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that they stay safe, that they are thriving, and so your vision has to be that strong too. Like, you have to have something so good at the end of that tunnel that it's going to allow you to anchor into that, so that you don't get pulled back into your past and you don't get pulled back into that negativity and that pessimism or whatever the case may be. And the same thing when it comes to your success, so that when you do become whatever you consider successful, you get into a windfall of money, or for a lot of people, that's what that looks like. If that's you, just not letting yourself become complacent when that happens. And so relentlessly having a vision that's authentic to you, and that it doesn't matter what happens in your life, good and bad, you are always going to stay committed to this thing, and it's always going to be out in front of you. It's always going to be bigger from you. It's that mindset of carrying the torch. And then when you can no longer carry that torch, you've got to build this movement so that somebody else is going to readily pick that up and keep carrying that for you, so it never burns out, right? And so being able to turn these big ideas into action steps is something that's a really important skill as well, because a lot of people, again, struggle with that. And that's something that I feel like I'm actually really great at. And again, that's why, but it's part of the reason that I have such a great committed team. And then because of that skill, also, it allows you to actually have the skill of, you're probably really good at constantly innovating, so that you're not being reactive. You're not just doing what everybody else is doing. Like, you're always able to have a leg up, right? And so this is why we want to be able to create this movement, not just a business. We want something that people want to be part of. And this is why, again, I go back to being a visionary is probably the best skill as a business owner that you can have, because you're going to want committed people. You don't want to have a lot of turnover, because that just cuts into your profitability, right? As an example, when you have lower profitability, it's harder to get ahead. It's harder to have that edge. You can't make the investments in your business that you want to. It's scary. It feels like chaos. I gave the example at the $1 Million Med Spa Challenge that I would rather have a $1 million business with 30% net operating profit than to have a $10 million business with 5% operating profit, because that 25% gap, yeah, I might have more in terms of dollars, but I'm going to have less in terms of margin. And I like freedom and flexibility, and that's what margin is. And with a business that big, with that profitability that small, that just rings out chaos to me. And I don't have a lot of room for flexibility if something really catastrophic happens. I don't want that, right? And so being able to just have this big vision, keep it actionable, keep it going, keeping people that are committed, making sure that we are innovating our systems, that we are always looking to be better, is very much a part of that visionary mindset. And I think that, again, that is the most important, because if you can be that person, and then you can join yourself with people that are tenacious, they're the integrators, they're going to come in and see the details of what needs to be done, and they're going to take care of it so that they can continue to be part of something bigger, so that they can achieve their goals while they help you achieve yours. That is what you want, and you want to really be able to flex that skill. So hopefully that helps you to be able to get some confidence in yourself, just in understanding that you have way more in your inventory of uniqueness and skills, that I would really encourage you to actually document these, write this down, and understand that this is one of the areas where it allows you to set yourself apart. And even maybe going a step beyond this, like, what are the unique skills of your team that they bring to the table? Because people are your most valuable asset when it comes to your business. They can also be the biggest detriment to your business, but the right people will be the key to you getting anywhere that you want. And because I have this belief that, without people, we wouldn't have a purpose, and people, we truly wouldn't. They infiltrate every aspect of our lives. And if it wasn't for, the things that people struggle with, then we wouldn't have a purpose in ourselves, because we have things that we're great at and we can complement those people. And I just think, while I don't like struggling with the things that I do, I think about the relationships I've built with people that have helped me get really strong with sales, with speaking, with marketing, with messaging, and things of that nature. And it's like I've developed a relationship with them beyond just the skills that they've taught me. And so I'm glad that I was deficient in those things. So it's made me more confident in my deficiencies, because I know that there is somebody out there that has what I want, they have what I need. And because of that clarity for myself, I know that there's people out there that want what I have and they need what we have, right, as a team and as a company. So take that into your week ahead. I hope that that helps. I would love to be able to hear back from you. What is something you took from this, or what is a skill that you just realized that you have that you never would have thought about before this. So otherwise, have a great day, fam, and I will talk to you all later. Let's grow.